I tell you, it's a brand new year, but it's the same old two dads talking. We are back. We are back. We are so sorry, STA Army, that we have been away for too long with the holidays and with travel and with Daniel getting his son into school. There's just been so much going on. I'm in the midst of volleyball season, which club season, if you are a sports parent, which you can look forward to a future episode going over what it is like to be a sports parent. The trials and tribulations of club sport. But I want to welcome you to a brand new year. Happy New Year, even though it's in the month of February. I am still Logan. That is still my co-host, my most bestie of bestie buddies, Daniel. And we are back. We've had so many of you reach out to us and that have just expressed, where have you guys been? I've been missing your shows. When's the next show? So we want to thank you. We want to thank you for the love that you show us, the support. Speaking of love and support, please, if this is your first time, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Put in a comment in the comment section if today's subject is something that you can relate to, that you get something from. And definitely, if you have any friends that you think should hear it, please share it with them. Daniel, first, let's get to you. I know that you've been all over the place in the last month and a half or so.
All over the
What's new
country.
with you, brother?
Hey man. So happy New Year. Obviously it's February, but happy New Year. And yeah, just did quite a bit of stuff over the holidays, and then right after the holidays, it's like just started normal life again after post holidays, and then boom, 2 weeks in Florida. And dude, that was a lot of fun. And now my son is starting school. He started school because he just turned 3, and they're like, yeah, just start halfway through the year. So
Well, just
yes.
a little quick side note, obviously a lot of us as parents have had kids that start school and, it's a big rite of passage and a big deal. But, if Daniel doesn't mind talking a little bit about his son, his son had came to this earth. God sent him here with a few challenges. And so him starting school is just not any other occasion like it is for a lot of kids out there. Daniel, maybe describe a little bit about your big fella.
Yeah, so he was born. He had a cleft palate in the back of the throat. Think of it as your uvula in the back of your throat. It looks like a heart, but for him, it was out. Like it was. So ultimately, he had to go through a special surgery to get that repaired and everything like that. So he has like a little Harry Potter scar on the top of his mouth, or in the back of his mouth, and he has some visions challenges, but yeah. He had a test for special ed type thing, and it's just strictly for vision. And the teachers, everybody, they really like him. He's really adapting to school. And let's see what else. They said recently he is a very, very, very smart kid.
Oh,
And I don't know if you ever. His favorite movie is Meet the Robinsons. It's a Disney movie, and he had this kid. He had blonde hair, glasses, and was an inventor in it. And he's like the real world inventor. So he's a very smart kid.
well, I wouldn't doubt that coming from being your son, my friend. But this is definitely a very special subject, and I'd like to have us do a show on it and talk about it more in the future. Because I myself, I had dyslexia as a child before it was really a household term. My
Hmm.
mother went all over the city of Houston to lots and lots of doctors, and we ended up at the University of Houston with a professor there that was a pioneer within the discipline to to get me diagnosed and to get me on the path of being able to cope with it. So once upon a time, at the time I wasn't so proud of it, but now looking back and looking at the accomplishments I've made and everything else. I am a proud, I don't know what they would call it back then. Maybe it was resource class or some kind of
Like a
class that you
resource
didn't
room.
want to have attached to your name, special ed, whatever. Back in those days, they used the big R word a lot of times. So, and you were all kind of shoved into one class, no matter what your particular challenge was in life. You were all in there together, whether you had a helmet and were knocking your head up against the wall, or whether you were like me and just inverted your letters and your numbers at times, and needed help for that. So I'd say to Nicholas, you go forward, young man. You go become that inventor and do special things, and we're looking forward to seeing where life takes you. So as a family, I would tell you, Daniel, it's not going to probably always be easy.
Uh,
I'm sure sometimes, depending on the situation, as you well know from some of our prior shows, kids can be cruel. So stay strong and just love them up, and I'm sure he's going to make you and your missus very proud. But with all that being said, Daniel just alluded to his trip to Florida, but the topic of this show is something that so many of us have to deal with at some point in time. Whether you're on a grandiose high, like you see sometimes with, our so quote unquote stars or athletes or people that look like they have the world by its tail, or whether you are at your lowest point where you drive down the street and you look over and there's that homeless man or woman sitting over there. We all in our lives, in our relationships, in our careers, in our marriages, and different things, we all sometimes experience what is known as burnout. And there's different levels and different degrees to this. And one reason why we did take a little bit of a step back from the show was not only just because of the travel and the holidays and this, that, and the other, was because my friend Daniel here was experiencing a little bit of that burnout, and he just needed a minute to himself. So I wanted to have Daniel talk about what was it like for him. What was he experiencing? What was how were those pressures of burnout showing up in his life and in his career, and if he would like to talk about in his marriage and his personal relationships with family and friends, and how did he work his way through that, because I feel there's so many people out there that can understand where you're coming from, where the depths of where you were feeling were, and more importantly, I think there's so many people out there that really would love to hear your story of Daniel, of triumph, and how you have been digging yourself out of this place and space known as burnout. So Daniel, if you would please tell us your story.
Absolutely. So I believe it stems all the way back when my wife and we had COVID back in 2021, late or fall of 2021. We both were very sick for about a good solid month. It all stems from that, but what was going on was um, the constant going, like you're always on the move and stuff like that, with life, with work, with just everything, with what you do. And what I was noticing was I wouldn't take time for myself or do date nights with my wife as much, and just take a step back and slow down a little, and it catches up to you. It's almost like think of it as like a credit card. You have let's say you have a $30,000 credit card, and you start building it, but it's like, oh, but I got money, I can still keep going, and then at some point you reach your limit, where you hit that limit, and then you're like, you gotta pay it back,
Right.
that's kind of where I was at, where it's just with work, with personal life, having a newborn, having a second newborn, things like that, and not
You were
taking
depleting your resources, not replenishing them.
right, and not exercising. And the reason why I talk about that, about having COVID was prior to having COVID, I would exercise. I would actually go for walks. I would do things like that. But for about a solid year, I'd say closer to 2 years, every time you tried to do exercise or anything like that, it felt like you had like a pallet of bricks on your chest where you're like, and you just couldn't catch your breath right away. So it
Well,
was a
and I
lot.
think so many people out there, especially when it comes to getting on a routine and exercising, it's so easy. You could be so solid and so there and so dialed in, and then something like a COVID comes along, knocks you off that course, and you're like, oh, I'll start again tomorrow. And okay, well, I'm still not quite feeling well. I'll start again after that. And then you look up and you are a year like, oh my goodness, I haven't I exercised in a year. I've gained this much weight. I feel badly about myself because I was doing so well, or I could see where I was sitting and the momentum I had that now I do not have. I can see how that can pile on and make you feel even more, um, depressed or have a feeling about it and cause the burnout.
For sure. And the hard part was you're trying to juggle everything. You feel like you're trying to be a good husband. You're trying to be a good business owner. As you know, we both run businesses. We want to be there for our customers. Like, as many of my customers, I hope they mostly know, but I put my heart and soul into each of my projects I do for my customers. Um, and going to Florida, it really changed me. I would say it just really and opened up eyes, because it's like you're going for so long. Yeah, I would go to Chicago from time to time, because not for great reasons, but when
Usually
someone
it was
has
funerals,
on
wasn't
passed,
it?
well, yeah, mostly when
Right.
and you're there for a day or two or a couple days. But then there's like birthday parties and stuff like that. But having an actual time where you can actually just enjoy, unplug from everything, like unplug from your computer, unplug from your phone, just be present with your family or yourself too. And being in Florida, it was, you could actually relax a little bit. You could actually enjoy your day. And obviously, working and spending time with family, of course, a normal routine is a good day too, generally. But actually, just pulling back from your everyday activities and just be present with your family.
Now, because our
Also,
audience doesn't know, like you went to Florida for like Disney and it
yeah,
was a whole big family trip with your in-laws
yeah,
and not just your mother and father-in-law, but your sister-in-laws and their family. I mean, it was,
yeah,
kind of
and their
describe,
kids.
yeah, kind of describe the scene there so the audience knows.
Absolutely. So I had our my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my all my sister-in-laws, obviously my wife, and our boys, as well as the sister-in-law's kids.
So how
So it
many
was
people in total?
14
Okay, so yeah, that's not, it's not a small gathering. That's a big undertaking.
for sure, and a lot of logistics and stuff, but it was so nice. It was so fun going to Disney. But
They say it's the happiest place on earth, so I'm
it is
glad that
on
you
Earth.
found it to be so. I know so many parents that come back from Disney and they're like, "Don't wanna do that again."
Right.
So I'm glad that you had the opposite experience.
And it was nice spending time with the family, and actually, yeah, just spending time with the family and actually doing things together. And it's not just going to Christmas dinner or or some sort of special family occasion. It was, you actually were doing things like an actual vacation. And what I realized doing that was our first vacation in almost 3 years.
Ugh.
And being over there, it was really cool because I thought, we're both Christian men, we both are Christians. And it's like, you think that you're doing right by, having a good prayer life, things like that. But it helped me increase my faith in God, but also my prayer life, my overall health. While I was there, obviously, I'm sure you've been to Disney World, Logan, right?
I actually have not been to Disney.
No. What about
Uh,
Disneyland?
that well, that's a kind of a one of those sore subjects. I had a father that lived in Florida for many years when I was growing up, and every year he would promise me that he was going to fly me down and we were going to go to Disney. And I had my little backpack, and I'd be sitting by the door waiting to leave, and that ticket never came. So after a while, when he would be promising Disney, I'd turn to my mother, would hang up the phone and say, "All right, when's Vacation Bible School starting?" Because that's usually was one of my big summer activities. Again, growing up with a single mom, I do Vacation Bible School every year. So um, we've been meaning to get our kids there, but now our kids have kind of gotten old and are like, well, we don't want to care about Disney. We want to go to the beach. So
Right,
I'm actually going to be in Orlando at the end of this month in a week or
right.
so uh, for volleyball, and the wife and I don't have to actually
Mm,
be parents as far as housing our daughter and all the rest of it. So it's going to be a team led excursion. So maybe while we're there, maybe just the wife and I will sneak off to Disney and
there
go
you go.
enjoy it. So she's been quite a few times. Again, I jokingly tell my wife she grew up with insurance, which means a lot to different things to me. But
Yeah,
she had the traditional family, so they did those things. But back to you. So tell me, Daniel, like you're kind of alluding to, but before you went to Florida,
yeah.
like where I mean in your life, like where were you? Like what was, those emotions I could see inside of me? And obviously I know a lot of your backstory, but for those of our audience out there that might be struggling with depression, with burnout, with you, I mean, again, you mentioned that both of us are, not only family men and everything, but we are business owners. And in this climate of business, things go up, things go down, things
Yeah.
flatline. Sometimes you like, where were you in your life at that moment before Disney, which has made this Disney experience and what you did while there in Florida be so memorable and help you come to the other side of the bridge of the burnout spectrum?
I was just very burned out. I was like, you sleep for 8 hours. You try to sleep for 8 hours, and it feels like you didn't even sleep. You know, things like that. It was just more like very, very sad. It's like, I want to say it was sad. It was just like you, every time you tried to focus, you couldn't focus fully. Like you would be there, but you couldn't, your whole heart couldn't be in that moment, whether
Now,
it
did
be
you find yourself having bouts of like crying or something, or just really low depression? I mean, like on your own. I mean, if I mean, I know as men, a lot of times we always want to show this like, oh, we're strong and we're fighting through it. But I know for myself, there's been many times when, especially if business and things aren't going well, and the wife's looking at me saying, "Hey, are we paying ourselves this month?" or
yeah.
what have you, that
It was it was a very rough fourth quarter. It was a really very very rough fourth quarter. Basically from September to December. I'd say early December. End of December things started surprisingly the holidays actually picked it was actually busier during the holidays than during all of the fourth quarter. um but as you know, not bringing politics up, but with the whole election year and all that, that's really when things started to kind of slide, where things seemed to really shift.
well,
And
I
that,
know for me, a lot of my clients, I mean, still are holding on to their money. They keep talking about projects they want to do,
yeah,
but when I call to follow up on it, a lot of them are like, we're just, want to see what goes forward with. I mean, politics is very much an unrest in the world, no matter which side of the aisle that you
yeah,
fall on. It's something that you have to take into consideration because I know my clients specifically, and I'm sure yours too,
If
and a lot
yeah,
of other disciplines that I talk to. A lot of their clientele are holding on to their money until they can get a good grasp of what's going on and if it's safe for them to spend it.
right. I
So
could.
back to how you were feeling. I mean, you were,
I was
it
eating
was a
more.
rough, uh, since September to the first part of the December. How was that affecting you as a man? I mean, how was it affecting your relationships, like with your wife and kids and your friends? And where were you in what place? What was that space look like for you?
It was, our I know marriage was becoming very strained. I want to make sure, I want to I always want to be a provider for my wife and family. And just regardless, I always wanted to be a provider. And what ended up happening more was there were disagreements and things like that. And it was just things that we needed to work on. But also it was just coming to the point where it's just like at some point where, where's the breaking point? Before is the business worth running and things like that?
So when you say was the business worth running, I mean, were you considering um, closing down your business?
Setting up like again like a second job, third job, whatever. Things like that. And the hard part with that is when you apply to jobs and they don't even return, like even respond back even when you follow up. That's when it got really discouraging.
And yeah, and so how did that make you feel? I mean, how did that attribute to the burnout factor? Like your business isn't going so hot from September to the beginning of basically the whole fourth quarter, except for at the holidays, uh, and you're trying to like, well, maybe I should put my name out there for opportunities, and you're not getting callbacks, and the missus is probably looking at you like, hey, what are we doing here? And these bills are stacking up.
Yeah.
I mean, how did that make you feel?
Didn't feel like a man, I guess. I would actually just say it just didn't feel like being a man. It was very, I wouldn't say demeaning, but it was very demeaning because it's just like you're failing as a husband and as a father to provide. And that's just where it just got to the point where it's just like something's got to give here.
Right.
But
And how was, did your wife recognize that you were dealing with burnout, or were you just kind of suffering in silence to yourself like a lot of us men do? And women. I mean, I don't want to just, on this show, we don't just talk from the male perspective a lot of times. I know that there's a lot of women out there uh, burdening the load for their families, being the breadwinners. Why, like, Daniel and I have small businesses. I know I can honestly say without my wife, I would not be able to have my small business because there's a lot of times where she has to fill in the blanks where and especially being a general contractor, you feast and you famine. You have all these projects, but and in my business, we don't, and I'm sure a lot of times in yours too, Daniel, you don't get paid until the project is completed. You might get a little progress payment here and there, but it's not enough to really sustain you in a lot of regards. You have to have quite a few projects going on at one time to make all those little progress payments, make a dent. So it's not until the end when the project's complete and you get the bulk of your second half of your or the major portion of your payment, depending on how you set it up. Um, I know for us that can be tough. So without the missus filling in, thank you, honey. That could be rough. So how was your wife, taking these rough quarters that you were having?
it was rough for her. It was like she works her ass off, Logan. She works so much to help provide for the family, and she really helped a lot. She would pay bills that couldn't be paid, things like that. And it was very stressful for her. It was very stressful, and I just feel for her. And I just really appreciate all she's done and all that she does for our the family, you know.
But you were
Yeah.
feeling emasculated in your own to yourself, that you weren't living up to your standard as being a man.
Yeah, exactly. And it just was very hard to live like that, you know. And um it's amazing how God can really put people in your life, Logan. um I met this gentleman. He's really he's become a really great mentor. He It's like when you think like you're right there where it's like you're, I'm not saying like this, but like you're at the edge of the cliff and it's like there's nothing left to walk to, you know? And he really helped me. He and I work together, he and I connect, and I do quite a bit of work for him now, and he has been really connecting me with a lot of awesome
You're
people.
cutting out a little bit, Daniel. Who are you talking about? Who's helped you?
Oh, his name is Scott.
Okay. So as a gentleman, I didn't know if you were talking about your prayer life or what, because you were cutting
No,
out when you were talking about. Okay,
sorry.
go ahead.
But so his gentleman, like you know how you're, like I was saying, you're at the edge of the cliff where it's just
Right.
there's nothing there, you know. And but this gentleman, his name is Scott. He's become an amazing mentor, and he's really been helping me as a business, as a person. But we met in November around that time, and I'm just forever grateful for him. He has really helped me, and just forever grateful for him. Um,
So when you went to Florida, how did it help you come out of the doldrum, so to speak? Since we're coming up to the half hour mark here.
so I don't know if you can tell, everything is a lot looser.
Mm-hmm.
um, I have an Apple Fitness, the Apple Watch, and
Mm-hmm.
out of everything that we did and everything, like even just after the new year, you had all the like I wanted to exercise more, like the typical New Year's resolution where you want to work out, you want to do these things. Even today, I'm still doing that, you know, like everybody drops off like after a couple weeks, but being in Disney, I burned like 6,000 calories in 3 or 4 days. I mean, but of
Wow.
course, anybody really would because you're
You're
walking.
walking around the park, yeah.
Well, the Magic Kingdom alone is the size of, they said it's the size of San Francisco
Oh
alone.
wow.
So like it's, you know, you're walking a whole city.
It's a kingdom.
Yeah, it is a kingdom. I believe it's either Disney World or Magic Kingdom. But regardless, but
It's
also
huge.
it is huge. But also after Disney, we went to Anna Maria Island. Um, it's a it's right there on the Gulf of Mexico or whatever it's called now, but the Gulf of Mexico. And the cool thing was, I still wanted to keep going. I still wanted to exercise, and like I would. There was a day that I just needed, because I unplugged for the whole trip. I wanted a day just to kind of catch up on work and stuff, so I didn't have to come back to Colorado with million emails and things like that, you know. And I would start running for like I ran for like 2 miles on the beach. So like everything just started clicking. I don't know how to say it. It was very. It just didn't help for burnout, um, work wise or family wise, but also health wise. And even today, I still work. I'm been getting back to working out. So my goal this year is to lose most of my weight here. So
Excellent. That's cool. So
so it's
just you're starting to feel a little bit better about yourself and like the person you see in the mirror a little bit better.
yeah, and getting more business now. You know, it's things are starting to click more. Not you're having more. I have more clarity of what I want, and I'm hoping. Well, my wife and I, we're starting to, we're, there's still disagreements, but we have been starting to try to work through those disagreements and conflicts that we have.
Well, I mean, and I think, thank you, Daniel, of course, for sharing your story and being so vulnerable with our audience. Again, that's what this platform is for, and it's really about, you the for you the people. I mean, because we're just, in this world where you see all these pretty plastic looking folks that their lives are great. I call it like the Kardashian effect, where it seems like, they have everything and blah 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 blah. We're just two dads out here that are just in the struggle every day, just like so many of you folks out there that watch our show. And so many of us at different times in our life do, experience burnout like Daniel was experiencing, and I've experienced myself in different points and times in my life. And sometimes you just have to realize it might sound cliche, but the sun will come out tomorrow,
Yep.
and you just have to get up and get out of bed and face it and take on that challenge of what is it I can control today? And that's where I think a lot of us fall short, is that we're so busy looking at the elephant and how we're going to eat the elephant. And really, they always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You can't control the whole elephant and all that, but you can control that one bite. You can control that one step that you need to make to turn something that maybe is in a darker place in your life into a positive place in your life. You can control the people that you are around. Like Daniel mentioned, having someone come into his life around November named Scott, that's made a big, big difference for him. Maybe out there, if you're experiencing burnout, look and try to find your own Scott. Find someone that, is upbeat, someone that is positive, someone that will pour positive energy into you, not take what little positive energy you have away from you. So I'm just saying that we're here for you, the STA Nation. Please put into the comments if you've experienced burnout, or if you're experiencing depression and need someone to reach out to you, or need someone to love on you. Daniel and I are here for you. We're here for the Army. The Army is here for the other members of the Army. But let us know, what did you do? What steps did you take? Daniel's been exercising and feeling better about himself from a physical standpoint. What kind of things have you done to overcome burnout? What kind of things would you recommend for other members of the Army to help them cope with this? And like I said, if there's anyone out there that just needs a friend, even from someone like Daniel and I that you don't know personally, or for other members of the Army who you've never met, but you're just like, you know what, I just need someone just to say, hey, person, man, woman, whatever, you got it. Today, today's not that day that you're going to lay down and quit. Maybe quit next week. This week, we're going to finish this week strong, and we'll get to next week and we'll see where things stand then. So for the Army, for Daniel, for Logan, for myself, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to our first show of 2026. We definitely hope that you got something from this. Thank you, Daniel, again for your vulnerability, for telling your story. We're, as an Army, we're going to pray for you and your family, that you continue to make the strides that you need to be able to love yourself first and foremost, to be able to find peace in your life, to be able to find peace within your relationships, within your business. If you want to help Daniel, speaking of business, On Point Media, he does do globally. Literally, he has clients all around the world. I know personally he does amazing work. I've known Daniel for about 3 years now, or somewhere around there, 2.5 years. And I can't tell you how many business networking and different meetings we've been in where people have stood up and have edified this man for his work. So if there's anyone out there that needs any kind of web design or SEO capabilities, please reach out to On Point Media and Daniel. He does amazing work. You will not be disappointed. So with that being said, I am Logan Jordan. I represent High Praise Construction and Remodeling. If you need any your remodeling needs here in the Denver metro area, please reach out to us. We do good work as well. And we just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank the Army for all your support, for reaching out, saying, where are the shows? We haven't seen shows. We promise we're going to be a lot more consistent on that coming up here. But we just love you guys, and we're out.